Hello and welcome to those who stumble across us. Dungeons & Dragons, to remove half species from player's handbook, claims the entire idea is inherently racist. We're not going to go through this whole article because this is just a report on said article, but I'm here with my friends Saber and Aura.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, you gentlemen, you play lots of the Dungeons & Dragons. Played a lot of it in 3rd, 4th, but no 5th edition. Mostly because I'm told it's shit.
So fifth edition's it's got a lot of problems. A lot of my big problem with fifth edition boils down to basically like the rule book is I think like $50 or $60, and the majority of it is it's up to the DM to decide. It's up to the DM to decide. It's like I mean they're paying for a rule system, man. Like maybe have have things be a little bit more concrete than let people edit it like they always do. Because that's how a lot of fifth edition worked. Like, or sorry, not fifth, like fourth edition worked that way. Where fourth edition you could follow pretty much by the rules, and it was a very good combat like game. But unfortunately, the out of combat stuff sort of really sucked in it.
Mhm.
And then 3.5, I like 3.5 a lot. I switched over to Pathfinder and played a lot of that too. But yeah, I've also made a lot of half elf characters, so I don't know if I don't think the idea is inherently racist,
Alright,
like the article claims.
what about you, Aura? What about you with D&D? Same story?
Uh, Relatively the same story. I started playing probably
When
around
I
the
when I
same
when I
time
first brought home a book,
that Saber was playing. Like, really, really got into it. I too have also made a few half races, and the fact that it is considered racist just baffles me.
yeah, because
Oh,
like
oh,
I know you've played quite a few half elves. Like I can think of a bunch just off the top of my head, and I've played a
yeah,
few half elves. I've played a half dragon. You know,
same.
there's lots of things. I've used Azamar just to say they're a half angel for within the story.
hmm
Same thing with Tiefling's a half demon. It's just a weird inherently racist. I disagree highly.
I exactly. I find it very strange that they consider it racist when it is trying to include like mixed race. How is that inherently racist?
Well, according to Wizards
Like
of the Coast, mixing races is a bad.
just trying to segregate mixed race should be bad, right?
Well,
I mean, I've played in a lot of different
Keep
games too as half breeds, and most of the time it never comes up that you're a half elf
Hey, I want to
or
keep our races clean and pure.
yeah.
the Wizards of the Coast is missing that grand right in front of it.
Yeah, they're missing a
Well,
lot of marbles right about now.
let's see. Maybe they have a good argument. Maybe there's something we didn't think of, like how half
Oh,
breeds
that's it. You're gonna
tend
laugh when you
tend
get
to
to it.
be I don't know, ligers tend to be sterile. If we want to try and put realism into our spell flinging game, now that's not to say realism doesn't belong in D&D, but you gotta be legitimate about it. It's not a very realistic setting.
hmm
If elves did exist in history, humans would have beat them to death with sticks. Same thing with dwarves.
Oh
Same
yeah.
thing with orcs. Humans would have just killed them all in the Neanderthal age, because that's why there's none of them around nowadays.
You go to figure most races can't even get along, or most of human races in our world can't even get along with each other, and that goes for every type of race. So how are we gonna have a completely different alien species that we can coexist with?
I don't know. I think Saber is wrong there because if D&D was real, dragons would have just fucking annihilated all of us.
Oh
There's
yeah,
that too.
absolutely.
We never would have gotten to the point to where we can start
I, I
killing
was I
missiles
was
at them.
sticking with the
Yeah, I know you were sticking with the player
the
races.
the player races, but yeah, if we want to get into the other shit, a white walks into a town, kills a villager, and takes over the world.
Yep,
hmm
but people aren't ready for that conversation.
Uh,
So basically, how this article came to be is I guess the other day D&D had some kind of live stream, and for their new not sixth edition, Beyond or whatever the fuck it's called. And technical issues aside, they would have random questions that would be asked, and they would just give answers to. And this article just takes a few of those. Post demo Q&A turned to the topic of Wizards of the Coast ongoing effort to sanitize D&D, beginning with a question about how exactly the publisher makes use of their sensitivity readers. Which, if you need a sensitivity reader, something has gone horribly wrong with your society.
Wait. Sanitize? Like purify?
What's a sensitivity reader do?
A sensitivity reader, as far as I understand it, literally sits there and reads a thing to make sure that it can't hurt anyone's feelings.
Which is going to be impossible.
Which is going to be very impossible, because I don't really look at Bounding of the Comics, but if I remember correctly, this is a relatively right-wing website. Granted, I've already checked, these quotes are just one-to-one the quotes from the people, so... you add, let's say, a lot of current woke, SJW, politically correct, whatever the fuck you want to call it, you add a bunch of that crap, you're going to be offending right-wingers, and so you're going to be... If you're trying to have a sensitivity reader for them, you're going to not be able to do that. Sensitivity readers are useless. They get rid of all the fun, get rid of all the edge.
I mean, the whole idea of the sensitivity reader, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, if you just, I don't know, think about, like go watch YouTube videos on D&D horror stories, or go actually read some. There's subreddits for it. Like, there's a lot of just weird people.
Who are in the hobby.
Yeah, who are in the hobby. And, like, there are people who get mad about very bizarre things within the game. Or they're like creepers, basically. I've I haven't played a lot with too many. I've had a couple of bad experiences, but not a lot. I never had to deal with like a big creeper type individual. But yeah, I mean, not like really bad. I've dealt with somebody who played like a gay dark elf, and he was real borderline rapey with him. But
I remember the story.
Yeah, outside of that one character, I can't really say I've personally had to deal with a lot of creepers, but outside of that one character. But the guy who played him was fine. He just, for whatever reasons, that was the idea he had for that guy. I won't get into like the character story or anything, but yeah. So you're just gonna run into weird people when you play D&D, especially if you play in like a public play setting, which that was.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing with your friends, you typically could just like talk to them at a table. Like, we have a really funny story where I didn't believe Aura's health was as high as it is, so I made him re-roll, and he ended up with way more health than he initially had. So I was like, huh.
I thank you for that.
It was, it was a funny thing. It fucking proved me wrong, and
Over 300 by level 20.
Yeah, he had a lot of health.
That wasn't a fighter.
No, he had a very hardy dwarf. But D&D has lots of interesting stories, lots of fun stuff that can happen. I would say the majority of D&D games I've played have been fun. I've played a few that were bad. Public play Pathfinder, like, that one was probably one of the shittiest ones when I went to attempt that. But outside of that, like, that was more to do with I was the new guy in the group, and they really didn't want another person, I guess.
Well, people are dumb.
And
Kingmaker also gave us a bad taste.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy's campaign. But that only lasted like 4 sessions? It was stupid. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of rambled on about D&D shit, not really the sensitivity thing, which still confuses me, but the point is, basically, you're not going to be able to make D&D fun for everybody, and because you're going to try and make it fun for everybody, it's going to be like very bland, and not really many people are going to like it. I already thought 5th edition was sort of going in that direction, it doesn't really feel like you get stronger each level, at least to me. But hey, if you want to go to like 1 to 20, like one level a session, play a 20 session game, maybe it works because you don't really get that much bigger and badder unless you have like a wizard, because wizards are OP and they always will be.
Anyway, let's read Mr. Crawford's answer to his sensitivity nonsense. We don't send everything to the same people all the time, Crawford explained of their content review process, per a summary of the event posted in EN World Forum. Yeah. Different reviewers have different areas of expertise and experience. Everything gets sent to at least 2 people, sometimes more. The old inclusion review process had holes in it because they would only send out what they thought would be a problem. Now everything is set out, so we aren't guessing what might be a problem. That is such a fucking bizarre way of designing something to me.
Everything is a problem.
Everything can have a problem.
I mean,
What happens if you send it to someone who's like, I'm afraid of ghost, man? Like the ghost picture under it's like, I dude, can't have ghosts. Ghosts scare me.
Based on my religion, I don't think ghosts should be included because we don't believe that they can be on the earthly plane.
Yeah.
Not even. I have no idea. Like, that's so weird. I mean,
look at second edition with the inclusion of the demons, and how D&D was considered to be a purely demonic game at that point.
Yeah, like back in the, I think it was like the early '80s, where everyone was the D&D fever. Where
the satanic panic.
Yeah, because I wasn't alive back then, but
no,
back in the '80s, like I know they had the satanic panic where everyone thought D&D was satanic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't understand.
No,
like you would need to get people who play lots of D&D to do this, and
mm-hmm.
I'm sure some of these people do play D&D, probably up to level 5.
I have dealt with that a lot. People only want to go up to like level 5 or 6, and then they're like, "Hey, new game."
And these same people complain that they never get to go higher than level 6.
Yeah.
And then you sit there and scream eternally. And then he goes on. Our team of our game designers and storytellers, we're not experts in culture and inclusion. So we're focused on what damage should this creature do. That's why everything goes through inclusion review now, so everything in our game brings out delight.
Man, that just seems like an extra step.
It seems like nonsense to me.
Yeah. If you find the idea of, I don't know, if you find the idea of dwarves heinous, like, just don't include dwarves in your game. Problem solved.
Well, look at how many people cry about elves.
Same difference.
Yeah.
You don't think elves should be like a playable race? Just say, hey, no elves. I've had to play at least one game where the guy was like, hey, you can pick whatever race you want for the racial features, but you're a human.
I want to point out that this is a fantasy game based off of medieval Europe, especially with the weaponry. So you're going to have bad things happen that people aren't going to be comfortable about. Obviously, it's the DM's job to tone that down so that it's not completely in somebody's face. But if you don't want your world to be all sunshine and rainbows, which not every world should be, you have to have some nitty-gritty stuff.
Yeah, like I'm not saying like you should fucking.
Well, yeah, obviously you don't want to see you don't want a player character to sit there and get raped, and then the DM have to explain it and act it out. That would just be uncomfortable for everyone.
Yeah, that would be a very big leave the table kind of situation.
But you could also have an NPC, like a bad guy NPC that like maybe heard of somebody
he like burnt down an orphanage to summon a demon or something.
Or he defiled some woman, and now it's your job to bring him to justice.
Those are absolutely things that I think are okay, but they are not nice. Typically, bad guys aren't nice, which is why they are bad guys.
Oh, yeah, but we live in this terrible fucking era where every bad guy needs to have a redemption.
I don't even want to get talking about Gorilla.
No, I didn't believe you when you told me that was real. I think that was the loudest fucking groan of disappointment I've ever had.
I made him watch the trailer in a restaurant. It was great.
I was so mad.
You don't want to eat it anymore.
I was done. got
Anywho,
close
moving
though.
on.
Anyway, even reprints are going through inclusion review. That's why some older books are changing too. So that's a big issue because that means if someone buys a book, right, and then they get their friends into it down the line, right, and their friend buys the book, you're gonna have different shit in the book, and that could, especially if it's rules or just wording on rules, because just the wording can really fuck how something works.
I imagine like some of the shit they'll change. They'll change like race to species and other silly things like that.
They've already said they're doing that.
To compound on what you're talking about, that just means that Wizards of the Coast is trying to line their pocketbooks even more. Because now you're going to have to go out and get the newest book, because there's going to be things in the older books that are no longer like legal for play. And it's just going to mean that you're going to have to spend more money on something you already have.
Yes, especially with the people with impulse control issues, or just they have to get the newest thing. Yeah, that's a good way to get a lot of money out of them.
I have to play the same game I've been playing for years on the newest system.
I've encountered a lot of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I don't know. If you're gonna do basically new editions, as long as I guess like marketed as like I don't know, errata or something.
Well, why not just have a free FAQ you release?
Because they won't make any money.
Exactly.
Yep.
I think Aura's onto something. This is a really good way of getting extra money. Like even if it's only a few extra books, that's still. Let's see, the books are $60.
Think about it. Their sales are already hurting.
Bucks.
Their sales are already hurting because of what they did previously with the whole
OGL or whatever the fuck.
OGL thing. So now people are trying to leave, and so they're gonna be like, "Well, how do we get this? How do we get our money back?"
And dear listener,
I mean,
you might be thinking that's completely retarded. There's no way a company would do that, or a person in charge would do that. But I challenge you with this: it's not a person in charge; it's a company full of idiots.
If you really look at it though, like Wizards of the Coast doesn't actually release that many books for 5th edition. Not compared to like what they did for 3, 5, or 4th, where you would get new books constantly. I haven't played 5th edition recently, so like I only know some of the books that have come out. Like they've done setting books, a couple of those.
That's why they want third party to do it.
But
so
then like there's a lot of
them.
There's like a lot of third party developers who make a book and release it that works within that system. But the way it works right now is they don't get money for it. I don't think, because it's an open source user agreement, so like they can charge for their book and D&D doesn't get anything out of it, which I don't really mind. But that does kind of boil back into what you were saying, is they just want more money.
Yeah,
especially because it's Bandai, or not Bandai.
Wrong genre there, bud.
Yeah, fuck.
They like to make the video games.
Hasbro, who owns Wizards of the Coast, and if you followed have you been following the nonsense with the Star Wars toys going on? They lost, I think, something like $1 billion+ because of the really shitty Star Wars deals they've had.
Go figure.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into that at this moment, but that would also factor into, let's see if we can scam these D&D idiots out of more money.
Similar problems, though, just like with Star Wars, they're trying to cater to a new generation. Not even necessarily new generation, a new mindset.
They're trying to cater to like Twitter, basically.
Basically.
Social media, which I don't really use a lot of, but I know a lot of people do.
Well, their merchandising sales are going to suffer.
Yeah, I don't know, like anything you hear on social media, just assume it's probably not true.
Just assume it's a keyboard warrior on there all by themselves, not being able to face any actions for what they type in.
Like I said, even like I've listened to a few like D&D horror story videos, and I'd be willing to bet that probably about half of those are fake.
Oh, probably.
I mean, that still means half of them are probably real, but probably about half of them are fake.
I'm sure there's a lot of trolls out there.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, yeah, you gotta get that dopamine from people saying, oh, this is crazy, or this is cool, or yada yada. You gotta get that dopamine rush.
Yeah, just... And this is the mindset they cater to, is like the Twitter mob. Which... if you want to, be inclusive and stuff, fine. But like excluding shit doesn't seem like a good way to go about being inclusive.
No.
No, it seems quite
Exclusivity.
contradictory, honestly, but
Yeah, it's like we want to include everybody. So
except
let's
the
get rid
half
of
breeds.
Yeah,
Get rid of
let's
half-breeds.
let's get rid of half breeds.
That comes up in a bit, but keep going through this. We get a full report. We then address the issues identified. We have a conversation. Then it goes back to the reviewers so they can see what we did and comment as to whether address the issue. We also send the art, even the sketches, through the review process. Jeremy thinks of it as inclusion collaboration because it's a conversation going on. See, that's grotesque to me as someone who likes art.
That sounded like word salad.
It is a word salad, but the idea of literally art by committee is
it's
grotesque. It's foul. And you can say that's not what it is all you want, but literally, here's my noble band of adventurers going on their adventure. Ooh, sorry, you don't have an orc warrior with them. I don't want to draw an orc. The story of telling in this image has nothing to do with orcs. Yeah, but we need an orc, and also the fighter has to be a Chinese lady. What? Then you'll get really fucked up images of a Chinese lady head poorly photoshopped onto what was once a Norwegian body.
Hmm.
Icky. That's what I say.
A little bit.
To this,
Well, that is an extreme example of what is happening here.
But that's the thing with
an
humanity.
example.
With all this is you always gotta assume the extreme is what's
Yeah.
gonna happen because it always does.
It is.
I mean, I would probably argue that they would replace the body too, but that's not really here nor there.
Sadly, they don't, though.
Yeah, you've seen some pretty shit art.
The 5th edition does have really shit art.
I mean, look at the Warhammer
Not for
thing.
everything, but for quite a bit of stuff.
The female
they have-
Space Marine.
Oh yeah, the
They have
female
some-
Space Marines are fucking fan art that people do all the time, where it's just, or the female Space Marine models people make that they are really proud of for some reason, where it's just a Space Marine dude's body but with a female head on it. And it looks weird and awful. I think it's more likely to be that extreme, just awful looking than not. Especially because I doubt they're paying these artists a lot.
I mean, that's fair. Pathfinder had pretty good art, but they all got it from like the same guy, I'm pretty sure.
I think so. I liked a lot of 3.5's art. Granted, it was from a...
had good art. 4th edition had good art too.
Yeah, granted, I
5th
think...
edition, well, 5th and 4th had this problem. 5th is worse, but like 5th has a lot of art that's really bad and has a lot of art that's pretty good. Like their hobbits for 5th are one of the worst art things I've ever seen.
Midget Vigo the Carpathian. That's...
It's weird looking, man.
It looks like a fucked up midget ate Vigo the Carpathian. It's very bizarre for the halfling.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's
I don't get that one. But they
so
also
bad.
have I've seen some of their other books and stuff, and they have good monster designs.
Well,
and
look,
stuff
I mean,
of them.
even just this image right here with the decapitated giant's head, like, this is a good little image. Got probably a dwarf or a human fighter in the back there with, like, a giant crazy sword. I mean, looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just a matter of that idea of art by
committee is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let the artist make his art, and like if you're paying the artist, it's absolutely fine to be like, hey, I want this changed, and then the artist can do that. But let him like at least give you a sample of what he's drawing, and before you're like, hey, no.
If anything, you should tell him what you need.
Yeah, like you shouldn't
Like
just
in
be
the
like,
front, you shouldn't change his stuff halfway through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hard
which
to do.
this sounds like is what it would be doing.
Well,
it's just because it's it's a constant process of, does this
I
now
ima-
offend someone?
I imagine there'd be a lot of with modern art, there'd be a lot of layers and like a Photoshop type of thing.
Oh yeah,
But like
it's still irritating.
I do agree that you should definitely give him a very good description of what you want. Like I want my protagonist to have blue hair, silver armor with gold trim, and then go into a lot more detail than that, obviously, and just kind of describe what you want, and then as you go through it, you fill in details that come up as they come up. Like there's like the picture with the ghost horse. It's down a little further, or up above it.
Up above.
The like if you wanted something like that, I think you could probably make a case that you like the green instead of purple. And while that would be annoying to change at this stage, if it was done early enough, it wouldn't be a big problem, especially if you're paying the guy for it. But yeah, as is, like, this is a fine image.
Yeah. None of the images that are in this article so far have been bad. I've liked all of them. Until we get to the ones right below with the half-orc and half-elf. Which I will then... But we will continue the article. To this end, Crawford then confirmed that due to the game now having 4 elf variants for players to choose from when creating a character, standard elves, high elves, wolf elves, and the drow, the players... I'm guessing that it was probably supposed to be wood elf, but they fucked up.
Oh.
When typing the article, maybe?
Well, like, what the fuck is, like, standard elves? Like, that...
It'd be similar to a wild elf.
Because
wolf elf.
Because they say standard elves, but like high elf is a subtype, and so is wood elf.
Well, high elf is probably,
and so is drow, or drow are their own thing. But
high elves are probably considered your magic wielding. Standards are probably your wood elves, and wolf elves are probably like wild elves or painted elves.
I don't know.
They could have just changed the name and been stupid.
They could have.
It's not like any of us are exactly keeping up with 5th edition's most recent nonsense.
Drow technically have a different racial package that is very similar to elves, but it is different. Just like a dark vision, for example.
They're also purple.
They are...
And popular.
Yeah. I like playing Drow. I've played quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, we are not comfortable and haven't been for years with any of the options that start with half, he explained of this decision. The half construction is inherently racist, so we simply aren't going to include it in the new player's handbook. Unsurprisingly, Crawford did not expand on his accusation, and thus his reasoning behind this claim remains unknown. So that's this is pretty much the crux of the current controversy that is probably about to spring up, or maybe it has as this video is being recorded.
Like, instead of saying like half elf or half orc, then just do what they did for the half dwarf and call it a mall. There, problem solved.
Give it an actual name.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, a half orc is a nug, and a half elf is a djinn.
See, within a few seconds, Saber was able to come up with a compromise that works extremely well.
Yeah.
And a company
then in your description, just go into a little detail about the fact that they're actually half.
I mean,
half elf, half human.
If it's the half part that's offending them, so you don't have to put half elves. You'd be like, one parent is an elf, and the other parent is a human. One parent is an orc, and the other parent is a human, or dwarf, or whatever the fuck for half-orc. Like, this, it's not hard to figure out something, and on one hand, it's funny. On the other hand, it's just it's getting rid of more options for the player, which is not exactly something I think you should be going for when doing a tabletop RPG, but what the fuck do I know?
It's more of their inclusivity idea.
Yeah.
We gotta exclude to include. What?
True.
I just kind of like the idea, though.
You gotta weed out the people we don't like.
I kind of like the idea of all these pale as fuck writers sitting there going, ah yes, the idea of a half-breed offends me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my guy. What the fuck did you just say?
I'd like to get some take on people that actually do have mixed heritage, like the people that would actually have some right to be offended.
I have seen some. That's how I found this article. They are not amused.
Yeah.
No,
they don't like the idea that they are now just inherently racist because their parents fucked.
It seems like a step back for people like that.
It seems like a step in a direction, not the one they think it is.
No.
No. Like I said, I've played quite a few half elves, and I've never really had a problem with it.
No, I don't know any reasonable person I've ever come in contact with that's been like, half races offend me.
You're being woke to an extreme that's a detriment to the people you're trying to help.
I have heard that. So this is something I've heard about half orcs. Never actually experienced at a table where people are like, "Oh, half orcs are rape babies," right? And
Mhm.
I've played quite a few games with quite a few different half orcs, and I have never once heard that as the half orcs backstory.
No.
It's like one of those things that, like, if you're gonna go that route, maybe you could have the half orc wants to kill his dad because of what he did or something, you know?
Sure.
You can
Like,
work with it as a character motivation.
yeah, you can work with it as a character motivation. Like he hates his orc heritage or whatever because of this. Um, but yeah, like I've never actually encountered that at a table, much less where it comes up because it's not really a fun subject matter to get into,
No.
and you're not usually you're usually like if you have a story like that, you keep it.
Close to the chest.
But even if you don't, like, you don't go around being like, my character was made in the back of the tavern
My
or
character
something. Yeah, you know,
was part of a
it would be
gang
awkward
rape.
if someone did that. You're just like, what?
You look
Okay.
at them, you give them a look, and then you pull your ruler out, and you make them get the fuck away from you.
Mhm.
It's like, get away from me.
Yeah.
You smell of Cheetos and shame.
Yeah,
Take your fedora on the way out.
yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I've never encountered an actual half orc character being made that way. The most common thing I've seen with like half orc characters is that they were basically abandoned by their orc parent.
Usually.
That's like the most common thing I've seen, or like their orc parent died at some point. But I've never encountered like that the orc was actually a bad parent, in the fact that he was like abusive or anything, or that he did the nasty in
I
a
mean, yeah,
forceful way.
unfortunately, most campaigns don't have like very sentient orcs. They usually tend to sit with the same
Oh yeah, they're a
problem they always
generic
do.
they're a generic bad guy, which I don't really have a problem with them just being murder hobos. But if you're gonna have half orcs,
Yep.
like you can be like, hey, most orcs are this way, but not all.
I mean, on the same token, you could also have, like, yeah, that's the big stigma with half orcs, but like Overlord, there's a half elf character who is explicitly said to be a human woman who was raped by an elf. So it's like, it's not like these things can't exist for the other characters, or even just a
Well,
human.
yeah, it's just the stereotype isn't really there for elves,
Yeah, well,
the half elves.
but it's also just like, if for the whole that subject of forceful procreation, shall we call it, that could be a fucking backstory for any race. That's it's just, I'm
I mean,
convinced.
You could be a human with that backstory.
Yeah.
And your dad's just a really shitty bandit.
Yeah,
I mean, as forceful as like the Fae are when it comes to
I mean, a
when it
nymph
comes
will
to
blind
doing
you if you
bad
look at her.
things. Yeah, but you could also have I think it's a
Yeah, I-
dryad could actually just take advantage of you.
Or
Yeah.
or
What you
hags.
wanted.
Hags will wear beautiful women's skin.
Or in the other way, we have satyrs that they're really bad at charming women. They're doing
Mhm.
what they want.
Yeah, so it's a weird subject matter, but like I don't.
now
I don't
granted,
really
the guy did not give that as his reasoning, but I would bet money and a lot of it that was part of it.
I mean, I don't, like you said, he doesn't say, so it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, but it's
That's probably not a bad call.
but
And I feel like that's the argument people would make is like orcs are forceful procreators, and you're just like, not always though. They could still be savage and tribal, but not be about that.
you could make
Like,
them.
if they go to a town and enslave a bunch of villagers and they have them work in a mine or whatever, that still sucks for the people being enslaved. But the orcs don't have to be that way about it, you know?
I want to point out that most orcs would sooner just kill all the women and children than to try to breed with them.
Well, it depends on the setting too. But
Yeah,
but like
just normally.
it's a weird thing because like in Dark Sun, halflings are cannibals. they eat stuff. Like stuff can differ from setting to setting.
Yeah,
And like uh in Ebron, half elves have like a house, but that's not really what I meant to say. In Ebron, halflings ride raptors.
Mm-hmm.
They have like raptor cavalry and stuff.
actually, that's a good point. Because he says we're not comfortable with any of the options that start with half. That should include halflings. Are they finally going to can halflings like that?
Are we finally
some
gonna
people
get rid of
cry.
half dragons?
Half.
Yeah.
Half dragons are gone, man.
Yeah.
They've been replaced with the shitty clone that is Dragonborn.
Just call them Draculin. You know, you could do stuff like that.
Get rid of certain Yanti because they're basically half creatures.
I mean, if this gets rid of what?
Is it just a word that they're afraid of, like half?
No, if this gets rid of centaurs, maybe it's not so bad.
No, you know it won't.
No.
I know.
Because people are terrible and for some odd reason like centaurs.
Because it's the word they're afraid of. So if it doesn't have half in it, they're okay with it.
Well, yeah, it's
Words are scary.
Like so many current creatives, they are so politically focused and minded that they just have these really fucked up thoughts, and they assume everyone else has these same fucked up thoughts. So when they think of half orc, you know, and by the orc part, they just assume that because you gotta remember the controversy a little bit ago, a few years ago now, I think, where they're like, yeah, you know, those bloodthirsty, forceful procreation having savages that eat, cannibalize, and murder everything they come across. Yeah, those are black people.
Mm.
And you sit there and you go, what the fuck?
That is never, until that conversation come up.
Never once had it crossed my mind.
No, I've always assumed orcs are orcs. It'd be like saying all Chinese people are Fae. It just doesn't make sense, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least there's a lot of different kinds of Fae.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just such a really fucked up negative stereotype. Not just about fantasy, like a fantasy race, but about a real world culture. And they're like, and then they sit there and go, "I'm progressive." And you're just like, what is wrong with you? And because I remember the 3.5 handbook, it does say that the half orcs are mostly made by rape. Granted, as you've pointed out, no player has ever done that, or most don't, at least. But these people who make these games, I don't believe they play with that many people.
No.
They talk, I'm sure, but actually, human communication and interaction is not something they're aware of or capable of.
I remember I did a D&D playtest, and there was no actual way to give feedback. For 5th edition.
Typically, these people that are in charge of...
You were supposed to write a message and send it by carrier pigeon.
These people set in charge of making all these decisions are usually stuck in a cubicle or some other boardroom and actually not talking to anybody outside.
Yeah.
They're not getting any actual
Maybe.
input.
I have no idea what their office conditions are like.
I'm sure they're not great.
It's not like WotC's rolling in the dough.
Oh yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be easier just to have like 10 guys come over to your kitchen? I guess I don't know.
When was the last time one of them actually sat down and played, not just play tested, but actually played the game that they're trying to make?
I would bet money a long time.
Yeah.
I think playtesting is technically. I mean, it's one of those things
No.
you can't really.
It's work
do
at
much.
that point. You're not enjoying it.
Well, yeah.
Because you're playing
I
to
feel-
find bugs.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are bug testers in all games.
I'm talking about generally sitting down and trying
But
to
like,
look at
I mean,
the...
even if they're
Hold on.
paying someone else to bug test, I still don't think it's. I mean, the designers probably should play the game to understand how it works, and I would imagine they have to at least mental math some of it as they create. But I'll listen to your argument.
No, I'm kind of lost on what I was saying.
I would agree. I would say that they probably play test the game, but they're play testing it with the people they work with, right? And that's who they're playing with if they play, on their own spare time, which I would doubt. But they're playing. But hold on. They're not playing with random people. They're not playing with people outside of their immediate, inner circle, friend group. They're not playing with anyone outside of that, so they don't know how normal people think. Your average Joe who goes to a hobby shop. And
maybe. I don't know how you would prove that.
I don't know how you would disprove it either.
I just feel like if because they got a lot. I can't imagine it's like 4 guys working on this thing.
No, I would imagine it's probably a good 20 or 30
imagine-
people, but I would imagine they also probably all think relatively alike because they're having to design this game.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that point that they probably have a very similar mindset on things. But I feel like they would still have to play test somewhat, maybe not a lot, before they send it off to an actual like play tester. But I can't imagine they would do none. Even if it's because there are things in 5th edition that don't make sense. Like upscaling spells is a cool idea, but for the most part it's not really worth it. And I imagine it'd be a very similar situation that because like no one's gonna cast a 9th level magic missile. So shitload of missiles, sure, but it's only a what 10? Oh, it's 3. It would be 3 plus 9, 12 magic missiles. 12d4. That's not a lot of damage.
Listen, how else am I supposed to roleplay as Vegeta?
Well, that wouldn't work anyway because they would all miss.
No, that's Trunks.
He's never actually killed anything with that attack.
Hey, man, I've killed plenty of things in games.
But yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I think with the size of what D&D is now, I could absolutely believe that they don't play test and they're incompetent, but I also kind of think that's a bad faith argument.
That's fair. I still think that they probably don't play test as much as they.
Oh no, I don't
think
think they play test as much as they should.
And I don't. I would bet, and like I said, I would bet money that they don't play test with or really test it out with people outside of their immediate group.
Oh. Yeah, I would agree. That's probably fine.
Which is why they have these really weird thoughts, like the word half is racist or the word race is racist.
Yeah,
that's why they changed it to species.
Well, I think what happens when they want to have someone that's not in their little group playtest is they send it out, and if they don't like what the review playtesters say, they just ignore it.
Exactly.
I would say there is playtesting being done, just probably not the amounts it needs.
Regardless, this is all silly, goofy nonsense of Dungeons & Dragons and the removing of the word half because apparently it's offensive to their insensitivity readers or something.
Well, yeah, the insensitivity readers is a bizarre thing. Like, your game can be as fantastical, grimdark, or whatever other type of generic setting you want without too much effort on your part, really. It's you set the tone for the games you run.
Well, yeah.
And like if you're gonna play in a grimdark setting, maybe don't bring a magical girl, It could work, but it probably won't work well.
We've been chatting for 45 minutes about this,
Well, I guess then...
Or you got anything, Dad?
Not at this time.
Yeah, this is mostly just stupid. You shouldn't get rid of half races, especially if it's the word half you don't like. At that point, just come up with a name for him. Hey, I'm a half elf. I'm actually a Linden. There you go. I gave you one for free.
I'll take my paycheck next week.
Yeah, send it to me. Have your entire staff subscribe to our channel. Increase our subscribers by 5.
Anyway, that's all for this silly, goofy nonsense. This was dumb. Let us know if we're right or wrong. Is this actually a great idea? Is it just inherently stupid instead of inherently racist? That's my guess.
I would agree it's inherently stupid.
But that will be all. So long, you single viewer.
And remember, folks, with great cleave comes great responsibility.
I work for Dick Jones.
Mixed race couple? Cringe!